And our meeting tonight is now open for sharing testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Ingrid from California, go ahead.
Hello, thank you so much for this beautiful testimony meetings, and thank you so much for that great website, so full of inspiration and blessings throughout all the world. And thank you for making the effort to give all of this free. Thank you so much. I would like to express my gratitude for the many blessings through the study of the science of the Christ, and especially for all the help that I receive in my work here in Los Angeles with the houseless people. It is a very unending work, and so the hours are very, very extensive, because if it's not in one program, it's in the other. And it can really be any amount of time, and there's so much to do and so many people to help. And of course, the main thing, the prayerful work to do. So I'm very grateful for what I have learned in this science about having the strength, not physical energy in matter, but the spiritual strength to do this work as continuously as is needed. It's just so wonderful to see how divine love just gives us everything we need and all the strength that is needed to do the good works, to do the good deeds, to help our brothers and sisters. Sometimes we are in the houseless camps until 1 a.m, and still is all the strength is there, the love is there, and it comes all from divine mind. I am saying this to glorify divine mind and divine love. So faithful, never failing to do its part and to just give us all we need so that we can bless. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Carol from California, go ahead.
Oh, good evening. Okay, the Christ protected myself and a lost doggie yesterday. I was walking my dog in the park. My neighbor called me on my cell phone, and she asked me to help with a lost Staffordshire Terrier. I wasn't home, so I told her, put the dog in my fenced front yard. At first, I was alarmed and anxious. And then I started to pray like this. God is in charge of every event. God is the life or intelligence which forms, preserves the individuality and identity of animals as well as of man. And I remembered from working with animals before, there are no homeless ideas. So I thought, and then I had to remember, I thought to myself, it's not me, it's the Christ Spirit that's in charge. So that took away the anxiety. And that nothing is lost in God's world. So I finished walking my dog. I went home. I fed and watered the doggie in my front yard, and then I went down the street to the houses I thought the dog might belong. I actually went to his owner's house, and the young lady came out. She's like, no, we only have one dog. And then so I went back home, and I just kept praying and knowing not to worry. And she followed me back down the street, and she said, oh, yeah, that's our dog. And so when we got to my house, and the dog's name was Callie, and it was her dog, and Callie was very happy to see her. So, and I was really, really happy too. Well, thank you for this opportunity. Good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Elsie from Alabama, go ahead.
Thank you. I had a demonstration this week that I wanted to share with you. I have a neighbor. He's been my neighbor for 30 years. And we both talk about faith. He's not a Christian Scientist, but he knows I am. And he's called on me from time to time to pray for him. Last week he gave me a call and said that he was so down, he just didn't know what to do, that he's had nothing but trouble for the past 30 days. And the topper was that an item from his lawn had been stolen that morning while he was out with his son. And he said, I just don't know what to do next. So I spoke with him for a few minutes, and I told him that he wasn't alone. God was right there with him. And I said, you know, we've got to turn to God for this. And when you called me before, I have steered you toward the 91st Psalm. He said, well, that's why I called you. I need help, and the only help I think I can get is from you. I want some prayers. So I said, well, let's go back to the 91st Psalm. And I said, let's work with the 10th and 11th verse, which reads, there shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. And he said, fine. Now I said, I want you to promise me that you're going to read that, and not just read it, but study it. And I don't want to hear anything from you for a few days, but just work with that. He said, I promise I will. That happened about the middle of last week. Monday morning he called me, and he said, I'm a new man. I'm so happy. Everything has just worked out. All those problems just seemed to disappear that I was having these last few weeks. And he said he had called the police, and the police were very nice and very helpful. And they even reminded me that I might have insurance that would cover it because it was on my property. So he said he called his insurance company, and sure enough, he had coverage, and they were going to take care of it for him. He said, I just want to thank you for helping me with your prayers. I said, did you thank God? And he laughed, and he said, I haven't stopped. I am so grateful for his help. So this morning I got another call from him thanking me again because he said he's never been so content and so happy. And I just wanted to share that because it made me happy too. I want to thank Gary for his readings, beautiful readings, and for the beautiful music, for Mrs. Eddy, and for the practitioners, for everything. We are all together in unity, in the one mind, and I'm so grateful for that. Thank you all.
Thank you. Joanne from Florida, go ahead.
Thank you, Gary, for those beautiful readings. Monday morning, when I logged online to our bank account, I noticed a strange check had been processed and immediately realized that our checking account had been hacked. I was extremely upset and fearful for our funds. Excuse me. So my husband and I immediately went to the bank to freeze our account. Since we had sent a check to our practitioner, my husband called her right away and told her of our situation, mainly so the check would not be rejected if she tried to cash it. She thanked us for letting her know and said that God governs the situation. My husband and I spent the rest of the day trying to contact all our direct depositors, which were many, to notify them of our new checking account. It was a very tedious and very stressful task, and we weren't having much success reaching many of these vendor accounts. The next morning, the thought came to me clearly that my income was from God, a daily allowance from the King, and couldn't be stolen, breached, nor jeopardized in any way. This gave me great peace, and I realized that it was due to the practitioner's right thought on the situation. When I spoke to her later that morning, I thanked her and asked for continued prayerful help. She told me also to make sure I knew that there was no such thing as a dishonest person. As a result of the practitioner's help, by the end of the day, we had successfully contacted all the direct depositors and given them our new checking account information. Also, the bank agreed to reimburse us for the lost funds from that fraudulent check and the cost of new replacement checks. The whole resolution was quick and nothing short of monumental. I'm so grateful to God and the practitioner for this wonderful working out of what at first seemed to be a very frightful situation. Christian Science can heal any problem. I'm glad to be at this church service tonight and grateful for the beautiful music and to Mrs. Eddy for giving us Christian Science. And I'm very grateful for membership in this church. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I'm very grateful to be a member of this church and to be learning Christian Science here. I just want to say how grateful I am to have this church family. I love that we have this common purpose which God has given us, and I'm so grateful that Christian Science shows us how to work so well as a team by keeping our focus on God. I spoke to my practitioner a bit about this today, and I was left thinking about how amazing it is that God gives everything necessary to keep the cause of Christian Science going. So I'd just like to give a big thank you to all the lesson writers, readers, translators, proofreaders, musicians. It's a long list of things that are constantly being done, and so I'm just grateful to everyone that contributes in the way that they do. Anytime anyone thanks me for the website, all I can do is think of how many people come together to make the necessary demonstrations. I got the easy part, put it together. So the glory is definitely God's, and it's certainly God at the helm, and I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of this wonderful mission. Thank you. And now I have a testimony from Diana.
Hello, this is Diana from Berlin and Vienna. I'm in Vienna now, and I would like to express my gratitude for my job that has continued to be a blessing in so many ways. It proved to be an enormous blessing, especially during the COVID lockdown. While all the world's performing musicians were unable to perform, and many still aren't, and the majority were not, and most still aren't being paid, I had my job in Berlin teaching music to children, and I was paid regularly through it all. I was able to go back to Vienna for 7 weeks during the lockdown to make practice and teaching videos in my studio in Vienna, and even made some videos interviewing musicians. The kids, the parents, and the families loved the lessons, and I loved making them, and the children's music education continued. Although I have been very grateful for my job, I have been looking for something that I feel would be more appropriate for me. However, once COVID hit, I realized very clearly how God has been protecting me by keeping me in this job for the moment, and I am very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Day from Georgia. Go ahead.
Thank you. Today's calendar quote reads, "Don't ever doubt or be discouraged. They are the devil's tools." I'm grateful for this instruction as I've been facing aggressive suggestions to both doubt and be discouraged about a number of things recently. I know this is something that must be handled for myself and for the world while working to progress as God directs in order to see all of the good that He is surely providing. Through Christian Science, I'm learning that to know the truth is an eternal blessing, and to be reminded of it always results in a needed healing. I thank God for all of the loving and powerful reminders that we have in this church, which allow us to continue on in this good work. I'm grateful for all that I'm learning here. Thank you, Gary, for tonight's reading, and to everyone for all the testimonies given so far and those yet to be given tonight. I'm very grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. Dave from Florida, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. The other day, I got something in my eye. I tried rubbing it out, but it didn't work. It was very uncomfortable. So I started working with the thought from Science and Health that truth removes properly whatever is offensive. Within an hour or so, I happened to widen my eyes, and the object just disappeared. I know this is just a small thing, but it's certainly proof of God's healing power, and that we can turn to Him for anything, no matter how big or how small the issue, He will answer. I'm grateful for Christian Science, for the healing practitioners, and for all that I have learned here in this church. Christian Science, when applied the way Mrs. Eddy intended it, does heal, no matter what the problem might be. I have seen proof of this all my life. And thank you, Gary, for those readings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, Massachusetts.
Susan from Massachusetts, go ahead.
Hi, I am so grateful to have found Plainfield Independent Church. I am grateful to God for directing me here. It has changed my life for good. It has restored my interest in Christian Science, which was lost. Reading the articles on your website has been like unlocking a lost treasure chest. Many of my questions are being answered. The roundtables and Bible studies are wonderful. Thank you for the unselfish work here, including the work of the practitioners, and for the readings and testimonies tonight. I know it is blessing all mankind. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Shahidat from Maryland, go ahead.
Good evening. I've had an example this week of divine love always meeting my every human need that I'd like to share. On Sunday, which was one of the hottest days of the year, my HV system, my AC system went out. Shortly afterwards, I found myself with the loan of a portable AC unit as well as 2 high-powered fans. Even though it was very hot out, my neighbors came to my need and shared of their bounty with me, which I'm very grateful for. Additionally, since it was Sunday night, my regular HVAC person could not come and see my unit. Another person came out and checked it out, and he's been working ever since to find me the part that I need to get my HV up and running. And I'm just very grateful for this demonstration of love in my community, and I'd like to give my gratitude for that tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you very much for the readings tonight and for the prelude. I am very grateful for the powerful weekly Bible lessons that are written here at Plainfield Christian Science Independent Church and the corresponding classes each week. These classes are teaching us how to live Christian Science in a practical, natural way. Before coming here, this science seemed a mystery to me. This came from a wrong idea of Mrs. Eddy, of church and her teachings. Now I'm understanding this is why I was not having success in my practice of this science. I had stopped attending the Boston-affiliated branch churches, feeling something was not right, and for many years I searched for answers in many places. But never did I give up reading Science and Health by Mrs. Eddy or the Bible, nor my hope on finding out how to understand and live what I was reading in these books. Now the veil is being lifted and replaced with a clear, pure, honest understanding of Mrs. Eddy and Christian Science. The unauthorized literature has been a tremendous help in this, but living it came from learning from people who were correctly practicing the laws and principles. Gilbert Carpenter books have elucidated how to practice these truths in our daily lives. But I am most grateful for the work with a practitioner here who has been helping me to purify my wrong sense of God, myself, others, and our world. Never did I imagine the challenges nor the rewards of doing this work and learning about God. When I came here, I had a very poor attitude towards most everything in my experience. I did not enjoy much and had a very fearful sense about life. Now I'm gaining new views of the things and activities in my daily life because I am learning how to rely on God and pray about all that is in my experience. Guilt is being replaced with the right sense of responsibility and accountability, pessimism to hope, complaint to gratitude, and overthinking to listening. Following this, physical, emotional, relationship, work, financial healings are taking place. Some quick, some slow, but all coming with a greater commitment to God and appreciation for Mrs. Eddy. Participating with a group of wise thinkers at this church has blessed my life in a way independent practice could not accomplish. I'm very grateful for Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, and this church.
Thank you. Chardell.
Good evening, and thank you for those very important readings. I would like to give thanks for a healing I had recently. After working on a church project and starting to prepare dinner, I felt a terrible pain in my abdomen. I continued my tasks but couldn't stand up straight. I planned on texting my practitioner after what I thought to be her dinner hour, and just then I remembered a testimony about a nasty stomach pain that was healed by doing church work after recalling what Mrs. Eddy said in miscellaneous writings on page 343. Quote, "Too soon we cannot turn from disease in the body to find disease in mortal mind and its cure in working for God." Also, there was a testimony last week about a stomach pain being healed while declaring that there is no pain in love, capital L, one of the synonyms, the 7 synonyms for God. So, as soon as I ate a little food, I went right back to my church work and the awful pain vanished. At first I was really surprised, but quickly gave thanks for this wonderful fast healing, and the pain never returned. The truths and support we receive here at Plainfield, learned from Mrs. Eddy and her students, are beyond awesome, and I am very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Betty from California, go ahead.
Good evening. I want to say thank you for the music and also for the readings given by Gary tonight. I was thinking about some things that had happened in not too long ago, actually several years. I'd like to express gratitude for God's protection while on the way home, and this happened probably several years ago. I had pulled up to a 4-way stop nearby our house, and I pulled into, there was a left-hand turn lane as part of it, and another car pulled up next to me in the right-hand lane that goes straight. When the time came for me to turn left, I hesitated. And I remember thinking, why am I hesitating when suddenly the car on my right turned left in front of me? And then I realized that it was God that had caused me to wait. I turned left when it was my turn again and went the rest of the way home, thanking God for his protection and for being taught to know that when getting into the car, we are to know that God is behind the wheel of my car and every car on the road. Very happy to be here tonight and to be a member of this church and for practitioner help over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Bruce. I'm very thankful for our website and the vast amount of material that we offer. Last week we had an article that was featured on the homepage. It was called Chemicalization and Tribulation by Paul R. Smiley. And I found that article extremely helpful and informative. It's an article that is really truth-telling in very plain language, which I appreciated. There was one sentence in the article that really resonated a note with me, and it goes like this. What appears to mortal sense as tribulation in any form is error's attempt to thwart man's demonstration Godward. And I think we all know that tribulations do come, but we can use them as a stepping stone for progress. I can remember a number of years ago, thank God that he brought me to this church because I learned so much. One of the things we learned was that reaction is the bridge over which error gets a hold of you. So, the point being is not to react adversely. I found that a little trouble, a hard time doing that, but with help, I made some progress. And I had one experience a number of years ago that really proved a very valuable point to me. I got to the point where I says, I don't care what anybody else says or does or whatever. I'm here just to see God's will be done. Not to justify myself, not to make myself look good, not to make myself feel good. I'm here for God, and that is all. And we were with a group of people, and there was a situation that rose up, and next thing you know, I was on the receiving end of a lot of accusations. Like the finger of accusation was pointed at me. By the grace of God, somehow I found the poise to stand there undisturbed entirely. And when this person was finished saying whatever they had to say, God gave me some words to say, very few, it was brief and to the point, which flipped the whole thing around and turned it right back on the person that was accusing me. And at that point in time, this person couldn't find any response to my reply. But the thing that I'm most thankful for was the poise that God gave me. Because I got to tell you, when things like this happened in the past, and they did many times, also frequently, I walked away very disturbed. And when I was disturbed, I was useless to God. But this point in time, God gave me the poise to stand there and not be impressed by errors, words, or accusations. But He gave me the words to turn it all around so that I kept my peace and strength, and I went on doing things later that day that were useful. Thank you, God, for doing that, and I'm so grateful for this article that was written and for learning some valuable lessons here in this church about Christian Science, about God and His purpose, and what our place is in the whole picture. Thank you. Sharon.
Years ago, when I came to this church, I was a nice person. I never spoke up if something was wrong or if I disagreed with someone because I did not want to make anyone unhappy. This resulted in me being unhappy and being walked all over by everyone and everything, just like a doormat. Due to my niceness, things were not good in my life. I pretended they were, but they were not. I asked a practitioner for prayerful help, and she agreed to help me. After getting help for several days, the practitioner asked me if I wanted to please man or God. Of course, I wanted to please God. She said I needed to speak up when things were wrong. As I started to do this, I was becoming happy. When I would see things that were wrong, I would ask God if I should say something and what I should say. I addressed the problems and stood my ground with Him. I was healed of niceness and was pleasing God. I am very grateful for this healing. I now can see error as neither person, place, nor thing, and address problems. I am happy, pleasing God, and my whole life has changed for the good, including many physical problems. I thank God for this healing, Christian Science, practitioner help, and Mary Baker Eddy for Christian Science. And thank you for the wonderful readings.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful that both the Bible and Science and Health, our pastor, give us so much to comfort ourselves and to find our peace when there's so much going on that can distract us and bring us into fearful situations or feelings. I'm so grateful that this week's lesson from page 83 of Science and Health, it says that mortals must find refuge in truth in order to escape the error of these latter days. This was of such comfort, and I was praying that many people who seem fearful at this time will find just this simple truth and obey it and find their peace. These testimonies, week after week, assure us of the truth that makes man free, the truth that has been given for all mankind. When we humbly obey what it teaches and apply them to our living, it calms us, it lifts us up, it heals the false senses of the horrible pictures, however aggressive, however frequent, be it physical, situational, financial, or whatever. I am so grateful for the power in what Mrs. Eddy says about Christian Science on page 110 from line 17 to 24. Quote, "No human pen nor tongue taught me the science contained in this book, Science and Health, and neither tongue nor pen can overthrow it. This book may be distorted by shallow criticism or by careless or malicious students, and its ideas may be temporarily abused and misrepresented. But the science and truth therein will forever remain to be discerned and demonstrated. I pray and trust that this strengthens all who are led to our website and all who discover Christian Science even for the first time, especially in these times. Thank God, Christ Jesus, Mrs. Eddy, and for all the sacrifices that has been made to make this science still possible for us to do our part to carry on in this cause, because it is the truth that truly heals mankind. I'm so grateful to be here. Thanks for the readings and thanks for all the testimonies. Happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mary.
Good evening. I'll read at first from our church website bulletin board, the first one from Virginia. I have been a student of Christian Science all my life, and that is a long time, and I cannot for one moment conceive of living without this incredible, far-reaching way of life, the science of Christianity. In all my years of being in Christian Science, I can honestly say I have never experienced such amazing teachings of this pure science than I have found right here in the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. You do not have to look any further than right here for the absolute best education in this science. The roundtable discussion dated July 19th of this year was for me the most powerful, fortifying discussion I have ever experienced with regard to the power of God's allness and the stand we must take, never wavering, for this absolute truth. It could not have come at a better time, as I was feeling quite disquieted and unsettled due to the affairs of our nation and the world. I had been faithful in my prayerful work to see the destruction of the evil that seemed to be prevailing everywhere, but mortal mind was trying very hard to take me down another path by questioning my effectiveness in the prayerful work that I was committed to. This roundtable discussion helped me get right back to correct productive thinking with more conviction and consecration than I had ever experienced before. I honestly cannot express enough gratitude for these remarkable discussions held every Sunday morning. Every one is a gift from God. And then Massachusetts. Thank you for the roundtable today, July 19th, and actually all of them that I listened to constantly throughout the day. I was especially heartened that you addressed the issues of the Internet and dark criticism of Mary Baker Eddy, in particular one website that I have also seen. As you stated, it is best to stop reading this material and, if there is any doubt, to first read her writings and do what she shows us to do. Until this is done, no one is in any position to criticize her. Have these critics done the work? I have known of Christian Science all my life, but dropped it, not really knowing the teaching, and in great disappointment with the church organization. It has only been because of your website and broadcasts that my interest has returned. Articles on your website have been helping me greatly, such as Gilbert Carpenter, Mary Baker Eddy, Her Spiritual Footsteps, Chapter 125, Mrs. Eddy's Use of Temporary Means, which helped me in regards to the criticism of Mrs. Eddy on the subject of morphine. Many so-called Christian scientists haven't read her works, studied them from cover to cover, and done the work. So it is no wonder there have been cases of neglect, far fewer than there have been in the medical. The real cases of healing are overlooked, and people say, well, it would have happened anyway. The other day I opened Proseworks to this testimony. It spoke to me on this subject, Miscellaneous Writings by Mary Baker Eddy, page 426. Quote, I have been reading Science and Health for 1.5 years and have had some wonderful demonstrations. People here are antagonistic to the science and tell me that I am fit for the asylum. Physicians threaten me with arrest also, but I walk straight on, knowing well in whom I trust. End quote. EIR, Ohio. And then from California. So nice to read your post. I never look at the things against Mrs. Eddy and Christian Science because I did one time, and it was so silly and opinionated and not like the golden rule at all. Me too. I'm so happy about Plainfield Structure that I have to go to. Thank you, and thank you all to the Plainfield members. And now a testimony from Virginia. I was hurrying into my car the other day and jammed my thumbnail into the steering wheel. Pain shot up, and I immediately knew that there are no accidents in Divine Mind. I did look at the nail, and it didn't look very good at all, but I looked away and got on with my errands. I drove again yesterday and remembered the hurt nail, which I had totally forgotten. But as I looked, it was completely normal, and the pain had ceased the moment I had declared the truth. This was a little thing, but a wonderful reminder that we are and always have been in God's loving care. And this one from Hawaii. I'm inching forward and have taken to stopping 3 times daily to either read or listen to hymns, the roundtable discussions, weekly lessons, and articles so graciously provided by Plainfield Christian Science. I am so grateful for this tangible and very present help. And then this testimony she gives. As a child, I was taken to our local Christian Science church in Hilo, Hawaii, although my mother never felt inclined to join. When I was 10, I became very ill and could not get out of bed. I remember my mother leaning over me and asking me whether I wanted a Christian Science practitioner or a medical doctor to treat me. I quickly said a Christian Science practitioner, as at that time I was deathly afraid of doctors. So, with the Bible and Christian Science key to the Scriptures, I began to study passages instructed by our practitioner, who lived in California. After a week and no progress in dealing with the symptoms, I felt very frustrated. One night, soon thereafter, at around 9 p.m., in my little room, with one bare light bulb dangling from the ceiling, I laid the Bible and key to the Scriptures onto my chest and began to cry. I remember speaking to God and saying, I am too stupid and young to understand any of this. I wept and was so distraught as I could hear in the next room my family enjoying some programs on the telly. Then I happened to open my eyes just a bit and saw a beam of light coming from the joint between 2 walls. I pushed myself up onto my elbows and simultaneously asking, "What is that?" No sooner had I said this than that beam literally broke into my room, walls crumbling down in the most amazing pile of light. Warmer than the sun, more loving than my parents could ever be, it touched every molecule in my body. I fell into a wonderful sleep and awoke a few minutes later. I was completely healed. But the lesson was driven home even more as I saw the words, "Always love, always forgive," as thought tattooed inside my brain. It has never left me, even though I have sadly ignored it many, many times. I am so grateful to have found this church, to find this true science that I've been seeking for all my life, and I thank you all for being there. And this one is a comment left on the video that we have posted for the article, "Wonderful Things Are Happening" by Dorothy Rickey. Listening at 2:21 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I am smiling with joy and laughing out loud in the night here in my bed from such happiness. It just gets better and better the more I learn of Christian Science and its God, for this God has been hidden from me, though I thought I knew him. I knew nothing. I am rejoicing with gladness, and I claim it now. Yes, wonderful things are taking place. Thank you for such reading, Mr. Singletary. Your gift of sincere teaching, speaking, reading, and calming voice is a daily and nightly comfort to me. I love Christian Science because this Plainfield Church has become my constant home and given me more than I ever expected to find anywhere. I was lost in life, feeling stuck and dependent. Had the 2020 shutdown not happened, I may have never found you. Sheer desperation and fear of the times had overtaken me. I know others are seeking you too, and may they find you as well. The need is great for something scientifically provable and real. I can hear in my right ear for the first time since a stroke in November of 2000. I I had also lost much of my sight and had little hope of improvement. I am reading again since listening in to the posts of this church. I might add I'm beginning to see the very small print of such readings of Bicknell Young, Mrs. Wilcox, and others, right along with Gary every day. I am reading the textbook and writing in my journal the lesson. I may be able to go back to my former career or begin a new one after things open back up. Whoopee! Mrs. Eddy gave us an inconceivable gift. Bless her eternally, and thank you so much. And then this, I'll end with this from California. I wanted to share this poem that was unearthed during some research months ago, but which contains powerful truths. It appeals to me in particular because it is simple. Poems have to be able to say a lot in a short space. So the writer of a poem needs to be clear in her message to reach the audience of readers and inspire them. For me, this poem became another confirmation of the truth I have been learning at the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent, that it is vital that we stand porter at the door of thought, as Mrs. Eddy says, to counter false claims which, if accepted, would make us into something that God didn't make. We have been blessed with the revelation of the science of being that Mrs. Eddy discovered, so that we already know God and man, the man that he created in Genesis 1. Nothing can change that perfect man. This is my armor in walking through the day and working not to yield to temptation, but to overcome every temptation with truth. So the name of the poem is The Inhabitant Shall Not Say I Am Sick. It is by Louise Knight Wheatley from the December 1909 issue of the Christian Science Journal. You are sick, they said, but that isn't the truth. And the woman shook her head. The Bible declares, he that dwelleth in God shall not say I am sick, she said. And she held to the truth through a starless night, till the morning proved that her words were right. You are tired, they said, but she smiled at that. How can I be tired, said she, when the only work is work for God, and he is my life, you see. And she quietly went her busy way, with a happy song in her heart all day. You are poor, they said, but she only thought how little they know. God speed the day when the world awakes to find that love is its only need. And she still maintained, as her fortune grew, not money, but love, if they only knew. You're afraid, they said, but she whispered low, as if talking to someone near. Father, since love is the only power, what is there left to fear? And giving her hand to that unseen guide, she crossed through the waters, he at her side. You are sad, they said, but a brave heart shone through the glimmer of tears unshed. And the answer came, we are told to rejoice evermore, she said. And she faced her grief with such steady eyes that the world looked on in dazed surprise. For the world knows not of the peace that comes to a soul at one with God. It is only those who are toiling on in the path the Master trod, who can feel through the dark that loving hand